One podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, prospectors, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty, salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, finding the saltiest stories, your salty questions, your salty confessionals, put them in our little mine cart, and bring them right back up to you, our dear listener. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
What up, what up, what up?
Hello.
Tony,
Yes.
you're back.
I'm back, bitches.
And like back in more ways than one. Like I think you actually only missed a few podcast episodes. I think it was 3, and that's just because we've been recording doubles and we kind of unfairly recorded 2 on a night that you couldn't do it. But back in a way where we can hang out with you again.
Where we can play Tuesday Night Magic.
Exactly. We're gonna have a lovely like 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks of Tuesday Night Magic before my baby is born, and you guys just never see me.
For sure. Yeah. But the Seussining happened.
Give us the recap.
Yeah, give us
Well,
the recap. Like, was it as bad as you thought?
Highlights. Tell us the highlights.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
I will say shout out to our Patreon series, Stray Grains. Everybody who's a Patreon member has a little bit more insight into how this has been for Tony. The ups and the downs.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's this is the thing with musicals, right? Like you work on them for months and it's like labor intensive. You're like going all the time. And then towards the end of it, you go every single day for lots of time. And then you do the shows and then boom, it's over. You don't you don't see it, you don't do it anymore. It's just gone. Poof. So all of a sudden I have like a fuckload of time again, which is great. But at the same time, like there's some elements of it that are sad, but I feel like partway through the run, I was like, I'm ready for this to be over. But it's
was
like,
it funny though? Did people like laugh? Did people enjoy it?
so I wish I could very firmly say yes, which is what kills me.
The hesitation already like spoke volumes.
The thing is, this is a funny show. It's supposed to be funny, and like some of the audiences were just like pretty dead, and like they still were like laughing and like having a good time, but it's just like it feels even worse when you put all this time in, and that's like it didn't even pay off that much.
Yeah, there's nothing
But like
worse.
I met some awesome people, like so like that part of it is definitely good, and I'm happy to have done that. And like in particularly one of them, like she was like one of the leads in the show and has just like really been helpful for me. She's like not from here either, so she's like also a transplant from the West Coast, and she just like kind of gets me and like gets like what's going on, and like has been a big help in like finding me friends, honestly, which has been great. And so it's definitely served its purpose. At some point I would like to do another show. Not sure if I'll do it with them or not. Probably will do it with them because it's close. But it'll be like at some point in the future, not like now. Like
Wow.
I need time to like get back to a life and normalcy.
Got to
But we'll
decompress.
see. Yeah.
Just no music for a couple months.
Well, I'll probably go start going back to barbershop. So we'll see.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so it was good.
I just had my last barbershop rehearsal the other night. It was actually kind of sad. We like went and we missed a lot of it just because, you know, my wife's getting pretty pregnant. So we sort of decided to like skip most of it and show up at the end. And they like raised a bunch of money for us to like pay for baby stuff. And
Oh, that's cute.
like everybody, they had like a speech and gave us like balloons, and it was just very sweet and like really heartwarming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool, but it's definitely sad to like not be doing some of the stuff that they have planned, like contest, and they're going to go to Harmony University this year. And if you have no idea what that kind of stuff is, I'm like really just talking to Tony right now. So
Yeah.
you probably don't know what this is either.
Yeah.
Y'all the rest of you
Okay.
can fuck off. This is
Yeah,
a
fucking
Sam and
Google
Maya's
it.
moment.
Hey, come record another episode. We're just gonna talk about things you don't understand.
Yeah, we'll talk about the birds and the bees next. Gotcha.
Hey,
Singer.
got him.
Singer.
Is that like that's the new Simic commander, right?
Oh man, it like almost is.
It almost is.
Some of those Civic commanders are really bumming me
It's
out.
the birds and the beasts, right?
Yeah, the birds and the beasts. It's like, is this the theme that Simic has now? They're like, hey, you know how blue has flying creatures and green has like beasts? Hell yeah. That's what it is. It's like cool. So uncreative. Anyways. Well,
after that, let's get on into
after that
it.
clumsy ramble,
Let's get into the mind, baby.
yeah, let's fucking get into it.
Let's go deep.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about salty stories, salty posts. We got some queued up here from our listeners, from our patrons, from people on
But
Reddit.
Sam, before you proceed, I must know, what is this salt of which you speak?
Wow, impeccably delivered.
Verily, Anthony. What a great question.
But Loki never fucking called me Anthony. I'll kill you.
I'm sorry, sir. Oh my gosh. Yeah, great question, Tony. And thank you for asking in such a kind way. Salt is frustration in the game. You know, salt is something that happens when you have power level imbalance in your game, and maybe somebody runs away with it. And their cards are a little bit too powerful. You can't really interact as well. You wanted some battle cruiser and just, you know, beer and pretzels kind of night. And they came out with the heavy hitting stuff and are really playing to win. Salt can come from a difference in mindset as well, in how people are playing and how like laid back or engaged they are. Sometimes you want to have a game that's pretty high octane, really playing some crisp interaction and really tracking your triggers and things like that. Maybe someone at your table is just not doing that. They're kind of playing sloppy, and you know that can be really frustrating and salt inducing. Salt can also come from specific cards, specific win cons that are too tight that you don't feel are appropriate, or a combo that you just can't interact with, or maybe Voltron and you get knocked out first and you're just watching your friends play Magic for like 45 minutes. So salt can come from a bunch of different areas.
That was very in depth. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, that was like almost extensive.
Almost extensive.
Almost extensive. Almost all encompassing.
What more did you want?
I don't know. Keep
I
going.
think he was almost
Keep
saying he
going.
wanted less, actually. Awkward.
What do I do? Yeah, I mean, my contract says that once a month I can just fuck off and kind of give a pithy response, be like, "Hey, we already talked about it," and get into the episode. And then every 2 months, I do need to give like a really in-depth one.
Yeah, very analytical. Like,
Yeah,
I got you.
like
Where are the
thorough. I
stats?
gotta
Can we
in
get some
it.
stats on this salt? Like some data, some numerics?
We actually haven't checked in with our stats in a while.
Stats.
We can't say that. We're gonna get sued. Command Zone, don't come for us. Fair use.
But
It's a
didn't we
fair
say,
use
isn't
parody.
it good if we get sued, because that means they were listening?
That is, yeah, there is some wisdom in that
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Except for the getting sued part. Let's find out that they're listening through literally anything else.
Yeah, like an encouraging DM or something. If they're just monitoring our show for
That feels less real, though. You know,
fucking fraudulent behavior.
they're just
But yeah, we actually haven't checked in with our salt ratings in a while. And oh my God, guys. Oh my God, guys. I have not looked at the salt ratings in a while. Let me read them off. Mike, 6.1% salty. Mike has always been our least salty person. Tony, 10.3% salty.
Ooh, nice.
You know, you're up there. Not super up there, but
healthy
you're up
dose. Healthy dose.
Healthy dose.
there. Nick, 12.4% salty.
Ooh, climbing.
He's climbing. And Sam, 12.3% salty, baby.
Oh my God.
I am no
Wow.
longer the saltiest bae. This is literally the first time I have ever been not the saltiest player in our group.
Yeah, and it's
for
because
the
we're not
stats.
fucking playing right now.
I think it's because Nick, the last few games, Nick was just on a salt streak. He was like mega salty the last few times we recorded games.
Well, we were also just like railing on him on his deck. He was playing like
Were you railing on him, Mike?
guys.
like fucking Mike.
I mean, railing, like
we're at that.
This
to
is
the
what you
listener.
made
you guys
me
hear
stay
how he
for.
emphasized
This
that
is what you
R and
made
that
me
he's
stay
like, I was
for.
just railing him, guys.
To the
I was like,
listener.
whoa, Mike.
This is our second
God.
episode tonight, and we are punchy. our first episode was a guest episode, and now we're just running on fumes, baby.
Nah, I think it's because Mike was railing Nick at the last game you
He's
guys
tired.
played.
He's tired. He needs to
It
rehydrate.
took a lot out of me.
Oh God. But this is pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever been in this position before. So Nick is officially the saltiest baby of our group. Give me like 2 more games and probably
Yeah,
bounce
sounds
back.
like I need to Swords to Plowshares Alessia a couple times to really balance this out right now.
Oh man, yeah, probably. Sam chiming in from the editing room. I have reclaimed my title. I do also want to. I don't think we've ever read this stat, but the archiest of enemies. This is our arch enemy stat. You guys want to hear this?
Nah.
I do.
Mike, 7.6%. Mike, he's just chill.
Consistently at the bottom.
I just don't like showing up
low
on the
win
stats.
rate, low.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I think it's because Mike mutes his microphone way more than we do. Because sometimes his girlfriend is like listening to TV or watching TV or something in the background. So Mike will like mute his microphone when he's not talking. And I think because of that, we miss a lot of salt. Nick is at 11% for archiest enemy, and he's tied with me for 11. And Tony, the king, the archiest of enemies, coming in at a whopping 19%.
Oh,
that's
baby.
pretty solid.
Just barely under 1 in 5 games. Tony's
That
the
is
arch
pretty
enemy.
solid.
That's pretty amazing. I love that, man. That's great.
Good shit.
Well, shall we get into it, guys?
Hell
Let's.
yeah.
All right, let's do it. So our first story comes to us from Patreon, and this one comes to us from one of our patrons, Dr. Black. What's up, Dr. Black?
Yo.
And I'll apologize starting this off because this has definitely been sitting in the Patreon Salt Council channel for a bit. It's a new year. We're making a better effort to dig through our Patreon posts.
New year, new me.
It's been a new year for like 3 months.
Mike, come on, Mike.
Ruining the continuity here.
Sam, make a note to edit right here. Let's just take that clean. Yeah, it's been a new year, and we have
Kills me. Oh my god. We are not getting through this episode.
we are.
There's no
You
way.
love this. So this post is titled "Objectively, it was the correct play," and literally the reason why this is so clearly an old post is because Dr. Black included the date and time in which it occurred.
Nice.
So the date is December 24th, 2022. The time is 8:45 p.m. On this Christmas Eve, I sat down to play with my wife, a returning pod member, and someone I had just met, John Doe, we will call them.
Johnny.
We had played 2 games with this pod and decided to play another before the store closed for the night. The commanders in order were the ever-changing Dane, Perry, Millicent, and Grand Arbiter. Yes, it was brought up whether this game was going to be stacks heavy. John Doe, the pilot of Grand Arbiter, assured that his deck was just a blink deck. I noted that Azorius blink decks aren't much better than playing against stacks. He said that it was either this deck or his more high-powered Urza Chief Artificer that could win without providing any time for interaction. So we shuffle up and play. As turns go by, I end up removing God Pharaoh's statue from John's field. In the same turn, I played a midnight clock. I won't sugarcoat the situation. I had an Esper Sentinel, Vega the Watcher, Kira, Great Glass Spinner, and Millicent out on the field. John Doe stated my board looked scary while sitting across from Nezahal, the Dane, Athreos Shrouded Veil, and a good chunk of fast mana. Sure. Anyway, John Doe proliferates my midnight clock, then starts doing some math. He then plays Narset, Parter of Veils. He prevents any attempts at removal of the Narset or the midnight clock, either through table politics or counterspells. So, my hand gets stripped. I am now no longer enjoying the game. Not because of the play, because objectively, dealing with the midnight clock was the right choice. It was the kind of play, nasty play, that I think speaks more to the pilot than the deck, especially when I went to remove my own clock with Return to Dust and it was countered. From that point on, I was no longer playing the game to enjoy it. I swung out at John, who lacked creatures for the next 3 turns until he was knocked out. And then the game went to the Dane player. That's the story.
Yeah, I mean, you're in your right. Someone decides to make you have a shit game, you are allowed to make them have a shit game.
Should we read Midnight Clock?
Yeah, we should. We should.
So Midnight Clock is a blue artifact. It costs 2 and 1 blue. It is a mana ability, tap to add 1 blue. It has an activated ability, 2 mana, 1 blue, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. And then it says at the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. So it's constantly accumulating these counters. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand and your graveyard into your library and draw 7 cards and exile Midnight Clock. So it's basically like a slow rolled time twister. And I think everybody knows Narset Parter Veils at this point. We probably don't need to read it top to bottom, but it is a blue planeswalker, costs 3 mana. It says opponents can't draw more than 1 card per turn. So with a Narset, if you get hit with a Midnight Clock, your wheel effect, you're going to shuffle your hand and your graveyard into your library and draw a single card, basically top decking you for the rest of the game.
You're
But
gonna get
it's not even
fucked.
draw 1 card because you then lose your actual draw for your turn because that all happens in your upkeep. So you get completely hosed.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that's way worse.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Kind of
brutal.
spicy.
It is kind of spicy.
Why is it spicy?
Why is it spicy? It is spicy. Like,
But it
I'm
feels
sorry,
like a little
Dr. Black.
unnecessary in this scenario. And it is kind of like you're just trying to fuck this person. You're trying to rail that person.
You're trying to rail this person. I think the real tragedy is that if someone tries to remove their own piece in answer to something you've done to stacks them out, like at that point, let them have it. To
Yeah.
counter that is true spite. And
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the turning point for sure.
you might need to counter something for like protecting yourself. You're not protecting yourself anymore with that counter. You're like just ruining someone else's game, which it's questionable.
That's where it crosses over from like spicy play to like evil plan, you know, where it's like, because they play the Midnight Clock and then the Narset comes down and it's like, sweet, in, you know, whatever it is, 4 rotations around the table, my evil plan will come to fruition and this person will lose their entire hand and basically be out of the game. And then you're like, okay, how can I protect that?
I don't even think this was like 4 rotations. I think this could have been like, okay, I play Narset and then on your turn, clock is triggering. Narset may be coming down when there's already 9 hour counters on clock. So it's just getting to your turn and you're stuck with it going off.
Yeah. I mean, it is a spicy play. Like that kind of is the dream when someone wheels for their own value and you're like, nope. And especially with Midnight Clock, it is one of those things you can't stop once it's going, you know?
Yeah, it's very telegraphed.
Aside from removing it. But yeah, that's brutal, man. I would have done the same thing. Just attack into that player. I think that's your move. That is your out at that point.
I thought you meant you would have countered the Return to Dust to prevent the person from losing their Midnight Clock.
Well, I would have done that too. Because that's funny. I don't know if I would have done it to a stranger that I just met, though. That's like
on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve.
Fucking Christmas Eve, dude. I forgot about Christmas. It's like very fucking Christmas.
Yeah. What do we think about the salt rating here?
Oh, it's so brutal. Now with Christmas in my mind,
instead
it's
of getting
like,
fucking coal, you just got a sack full of salt.
yeah, you're just
like,
getting lumps of
fuck
salt,
me.
man. That is, and honestly, like kudos to Dr. Black for even pointing out that it was the correct play. Because frankly, I don't know if that was the objective correct play in that move. It's like, yeah, it's something getting a fresh hand of 7 is good, but is it so good that you connive an evil plan against them for multiple turns in a row? Like,
Yeah. Anytime you're spending more than like 2 pieces of interaction for somebody else's shit just to do a thing, like feels like a lot of resources.
A thing that doesn't even specifically win the game, a thing that just like gives some value.
Exactly.
yeah, and it doesn't even knock Dr. Black out of the game. It just like depowers him and honestly puts a target on you. Like sometimes what happens in casual games is you have these moves where you sort of, I think you need to stop and think and be like, is this actually getting me the value I need? Or is this going to create an arch enemy situation with me and another player? And they are just going to gun for me for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
You
target
know?
player discards 5 cards and attacks you for the rest of the game is not an effect I'm interested in playing for 2 cards. Like, I don't want that to happen.
That is such a good way of thinking about it, Mike. Like, just consider that is printed on a card and that player must attack you for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
You're like, now I don't want to cast it. Now that effect actually seems actively bad.
Yeah.
And you have to pitch a counter spell in order to cast it.
Yeah. Bitch 2 cards. Target player top decks for the rest of the game, but also must attack you every combat. Yeah, in that case, I disagree with Dr. Black. I don't think that this is objectively the correct play.
It's one of the things about playing with unknowns too. In a known group, you know that as soon as you try and make that happen with the clock, you're getting attacked for the rest of the game. Like, you know that's not going to stand too. And in the future game, I doubt this player is going to be as aggressive at removing, or at hindering like a clock like this, because that's just not worth it.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to be worth it. Especially, I mean, they even point out that this game went to another player. Like, neither of them won,
Yeah.
It kind of smells like a blood feud situation that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Well, shall we move on to another one, guys?
Let's.
Fuck yeah.
Please don't swear, Tony.
Fuck.
All right, this next one comes to us from Reddit. There's a Reddit DM and comes to us from user Runage. If you guys see user Runage on the subreddits, give him an upvote. You know the drill. Spread that goodwill. And this post is titled Playing with a Burgermeister of Politics. And it goes, Hi, Sam, Mike, and Tony. I am calling in from Australia with a story about playing EDH with my friend, Burger. I love playing with Burger, but I occasionally get frustrated by how good he is at politics and deflecting removal away from his board. He doesn't normally bother me too much, but I have found myself reluctant to pull out my Brina deck or build a Goad deck because they draw extra attention with him at the table. The one time I did get a little salty was when he convinced another player to remove my Soul Ring instead of his Rhystic Study. Good
Now
Lord.
that's just good
Crazy.
politicking.
Oh, that's
I don't even fucking know how that
Jedi
happened.
shit right
Yeah,
there.
this
Like,
dude's going to be your next
literally.
local politician. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Jesus.
And the story continues. I was playing an unmodified Osgear precon and had gotten off to a good start by sacrificing and duplicating my Soul Ring. Burger was playing a spicy but inconsistent Orvar deck. One of the other players dropped a Harmonic Sliver, and Burger convinced the other player that I was the bigger threat. I spite killed the Sliver in response to having my Soul Ring targeted, instead of patiently letting them dismantle my board and eventually get to kill the other player's boards. Needless to say, Burger comboed off for the win a few turns later. Love the podcast. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
One, I love that Burgermeister literally means mayor. So it's like straight up, like just cheap, like lead politician here.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That is just like, I don't think there's ever a world where Soul Ring mana is more advantageous than a fucking Rhystic Study on the board.
No.
Like I'm like kind of pausing as I talk because I just cannot think of a scenario. I'm like
You're
trying
like
to rack my
trying
brain.
to, and you just can't.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, 4 mana, even if someone had like 6 mana, I think the Soul Ring is still a problem, you know?
Maybe if there's a Notion Thief on board, then the Soul Ring is the target. But
Yeah.
that's like it.
Yeah, if you have a Narset partner available.
Yeah, if there's something that's like
Even Narset, they could still draw a card a turn, so it's just not worth it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, it just is that's some crazy politics. I'm actually really curious to like, what did he say to convince this Sliver player?
yeah, I'm like wondering if I would be fooled if I was in the game with him.
Yeah,
Would he
right?
get me to like, are they a true Jedi? Maybe they really just are a Jedi.
Maybe they're handsome and tall.
We don't have that in our pod, so it's not a problem usually.
Nick's really tall.
Yeah.
Nick is really tall. Oh, baby.
So I kind of want to point out, like, spite killing the Harmonic Sliver. I wonder if it would have been better to try to reverse politic in that situation and be like, okay, you can take out my Soul Rings, but you should also get rid of the Rhystic Study. You know what I mean? To like stop that advantage engine from going. Like,
yeah,
unless their board presence was so strong that the Osgear player was like literally about to pop off, like in some crazy way.
I feel like I get it though, because like in that moment, I would have done the same fucking thing. I would have been like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna just do this now." Like, if you're gonna do that, like, whatever, fuck yourself.
It's true. Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have been able to just let the time be like, okay, well, now can you, like, that's probably the right thing to try and do, but there's too much rage in the way of that. Like,
I mean, Soul Rings are so sacred. When someone fucks with your Soul Ring, it's like, what are you doing to me right now?
Well, yeah, because
like,
half the time you'll keep a bad hand that has a Soul Ring in it. Like, sorry, it's a great hand with a Soul Ring. It's trash otherwise, you know?
Yeah. It's your acceleration. Like, you needed it, especially in Osgear. You're like, oh, baby, this is about to be 2 Soul Rings.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fucking frustrating, man. That's some powerful politics.
And yet also impressive. Like, I feel like that's what's really getting me. Like,
Yeah, like, is this guy doing coaching for
yeah, right?
EDH politics? Like, I'm down to be taught. Like, I don't know the time zone difference between Australia and here, but like, you know,
we can make it work.
Yeah, we can make it work.
One of the things with politics, though, too, is like sometimes that's a single use thing. Like if someone becomes well known for politicking, they can get called on that just like on its face. Like Sam for a while was getting away with stuff by just like casually saying like, oh, what if you targeted that instead? And people would be like, oh yeah, good point, I will. And I think we caught on like a month or two ago, and now it's like he'll be like, oh, well, you know, what if you do that? And we're all like, oh, he's doing it again.
Yeah. And now we're basically like, actually, we're gonna blow up something on Sam's board now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is partially why I wanted to read this one, because I was like, I see a little bit of myself here. And it's interesting with the Goad deck and the Brina deck too. The mention of that like puts extra attention on the Brina and Goad deck player. Frankly, I think those decks like draw a lot of aggro as people catch on to the strategy, you know?
Yeah. People don't like losing agency, and being goaded feels like you lose agency.
Yeah. And definitely like 100%. Like with my Marisi deck that I used to run, it was really powerful, but like the moment where I had the table in a lock where everything was getting goaded, all your creatures were coming in tapped, you guys would be like raging and like forced to attack, but just waiting for the moment where you could unleash on me. And turn after turn, it would just build, and it'd be like, well, I guess I fucking have to attack Nick or Tony again, but I want to attack Sam. And then it would just like, as soon as Marisi was killed,
once the floodgates were open,
it was like,
it's just
all right, let's crush Sam now.
Yeah.
And even Brina, Brina's a little bit more political in like an interesting way, where basically like your opponents attack. If your opponents attack your other opponents, they get to draw a card, but Brina grows by +2/+2, or you get to distribute 2 +1/+1 counters on your side of the board. Generally, you're putting it on Brina. And I remember playing my Brina deck and having like 6 really good games with Brina. Maybe that's even an over exaggeration, maybe like 3 or 4. And then after that point, you guys were like, yeah, fuck that. I don't need the card. I don't want Brina to be huge.
Well, because it happened so instantly. Like it would go from like in one turn rotation, all of a sudden you've got a fucking 10/10 over there. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it jumps up so fast. And it's one of those decks that like you need to have a desperate player at your table to really get the value from it. Because if someone's not desperate for like to get a land or to like draw into a win con or interaction or something, they're just not going to play into it. You know what I mean? And generally speaking, like that's why I took that deck apart, because I wanted it to be like my Marisi deck, where it's kind of this political combat deck. And it's one of those things where like people see through it and they're like, oh, well, I just won't do that. And you're like, oh, well, now my commander is just a bird. That
You got me.
Yeah.
I guess I'll draw a card and put a couple counters on her on my turn.
Yeah, I mean, the value's still there, but it's not the same. It's not the same the first time you play and everyone's feeding into it. It's like, I want a card. Well, I'm going to get a card too. And I'm like, hey, my big old bird.
What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
Pretty salty for me, man. And certainly not a full shaker. Maybe half, maybe just like an overloaded salt packet. But I would be bummed out losing a Soul Ring over like a fucking Rhystic Study, man. Like I think we can all agree that Rhystic Study is one of like the better cards printed ever.
You know, it's like pretty okay, I guess.
Yeah. Mike says with his Rhystic Study. It's not as good as 2 Soul Rings.
I feel like this would make me so fucking mad. Bullshit on this like half packet bullshit. Sam's saying that because he's like he is the other side of the equation here. Like,
and all I'm saying is, it sounds like this burger guy is pretty cool, actually, and maybe correct. I think 2 Soul Rings actually is pretty bad, frankly.
It's yeah, I think this would be pretty high inducing salt for me. And like anytime something like this happens to me, I have the same reaction of like, well, now I'm gonna fuck your shit up because you were stupid. And like I don't like it, even though it's admittedly wrong. That's just what I'm gonna do. And the times when you can find the most solace in your salt is when it does finally flip, because eventually it will. Like we're kind of talking to it a little bit, and it's like people will eventually like political themselves out of other deals because they just do it too much. And then when that day happens and comes, you're going to feel so fucking good. That minute that like somebody else at the table advocates and is like, actually, I think that person is the problem. You're just going to like feel this wave of emotion come over you, and it's going to be glorious. So I don't have better advice other than to wait for that day, but it'll come. I promise you.
I kind of want to say that, like, I think our politics in our group is almost nearing this point where we are about to not have any politics. You know what I mean? Because we're all so used to like being suspicious of each other, manipulating each other to like change targets and remove certain things.
Yeah.
That we're starting to get to this point where someone's like, if you attack me, you won't like it. And it's just like, well, I'm just going to fucking attack you. So like you can play
or
your
it's
card
like the
next
can I
turn.
attack you, or the like I'll give you a deal, and we're just like, you know what? No.
Yeah. Or like you could remove
There's
this
a
other
lot
thing.
of
And it's like,
that.
yeah, but I'm removing this thing. And you're like,
It's
oh, well.
it's kind of circled back just to like hard truths too. It's like, I'm gonna attack you, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna remove it, and then someone attacks, and then it gets removed. It's like, okay, now we're both grumpy about it.
Exactly. Like I love politics. I think it's really fun. Obviously, we're talking about how I play politics pretty hard. But also I think there is a benefit to sometimes just being like, cool, play your game.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to do that? Great. Then you can do it. Play your game.
Yeah. I think the thing that this fringes on, or doesn't fringe on, thoroughly steps into, that is super salt inducing to me, is like, there's a difference between politics and threat assessment, and they play on each other. But when someone seems to just be straight up actively having bad threat assessment, that's really frustrating. And if someone can politic their way into another playing haver, If someone can politic their way into another player having
the partner partner.
We were past it, Tony. We were past
yes,
it.
make me record this episode.
Thank you. This is on the schedule. Thank you. Okay. Mike is a sleepy boy. Let's throw it out there. Let's put it on the record. Mike's a sleepy boy. He's going to go to sleep in 4 hours.
Yeah, in 4 hours. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean I'm not sleepy. I'll stand by that. Like the point where another player has made someone's threat assessment bad, you just sitting there feeling like, how has this person duped you? It's like your friend has been taken over by the evil force, and you're like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to remove your harmonic sliver, but I've got to do it. It's like that just feels bad. And then eventually it'll have that, like, you know, epic fantasy storyline moment where they're like, no, I can't possibly do it. This guy is the one messing with my head. And then like every game action from then on out is killing that player.
Gandalf the Grey casts off his robe and it's Gandalf the White. And that dude's like, we all know the scene.
Can't wait to reenact it in MTG in a couple months.
Exactly. I can't wait for that mono white instant cast off your robe and you
Hey-o. Okay. All right.
And then you rail your pod partners.
Oh my God. We can't. Now, the more jokes we make about that, that means I have to keep that segment in.
Exactly. We're definitely keeping it in. Was there a thought we were removing it?
Yes.
It's going to go in the fucking episode title. Are you kidding me right now?
That's not going to happen.
Not happening.
That's where I still retain final creative control. It is not happening.
Something and railing.
No, certainly
I can
not.
see it now.
Oh man. Tony bats like 30% with some of these episode titles. He'll be like, can we put like raisin fucker in there? And it's like, we didn't even say that. We didn't even say that in the episode. He's like, yeah, but it's fucking funny. Is that too long? Is that gonna make it too long? Every week that happens. Broke Mike and Tony. All right, you guys ready for another one?
Yeah.
We should record more episodes at this time. It's so chaotic. It's
if it doesn't
great.
start with raisin fucker though, then I think we've done it wrong.
I know. Well, now it's a monkey paw situation. I fucked myself. Now it's gonna say that in the title. So this next salty story comes to us from a Gmail submission. And this is from user Church1D. And the post is titled Salty Story. And they say, hello, I just discovered your podcast and I absolutely love it. Really nice job. So funny and insightful. Wow. Did you guys know that we're insightful?
Sam edits in a couple extra like praising lines at the beginning of all of these submissions.
What a deep and sexy voice. Wow. Thanks. Jeez.
Every single Gmail is just Sam emailing us from
burner accounts.
I
was like, whoa, wow. Do you guys see that Gmail that just came in? Pretty cool. Mostly just accolades, but wow. No, they did actually say that. Thank you for the kind words. We appreciate it. And we're glad that you enjoy the podcast. And the story continues. I was playing EDH as Cardur Doomscourge. I love the goad mechanic. It's funny, we were just talking about this. But sometimes it's tough to finish off the last player. True. This particular game, it was down to me and one person. I had nothing in hand, and they had a huge army of 4/4 angels. I was done for. I motioned towards a friend of mine, the second player to get knocked out, and said, oh man, he's screwed, all while showing him the single card in my hand, a mountain. Like I said, I had nothing. Well, the player with the angel army doesn't attack me and simply passes the turn. I was confused. You're not attacking me? Nope, pass turn. But you have lethal on board. I think you have some damage reversal spell. I totally bluffed him, which I wasn't expecting because I'm not exactly a Pro Tour poker player. No shit. The next card I draw was Mob Rule to end the game by stealing his angels and killing him with his own army. He was pissed. This particular game was for a promo pack, which I gave to him because I felt bad. But maybe I shouldn't have. Am I the asshole, or is this the kind of deception part of Commander? Thanks, Church 1D.
We found Burgermeister.
His
Church
Burger
1D.
Fucking Jedi mind tricks on this.
Turns a single mountain. I do love that, like, an inside joke with your friend next to you, like, turns into this victory, though, to be like, wow, look at my hand. That dude's totally screwed. And then they're like, oh my God. Like, Angel player just starts sweating. Like, what could he have? What is in that hand?
I don't know. You're not the asshole here, and you should have taken the pack. Definitely.
Yeah,
Like that you
Hondo
earned
P.
that pack.
Yeah, you earned that shit.
Like people have to play it out, make them have it. Like,
Yeah.
or at least like put him down to lethal, like put him down to 1 or something. Like do something to try and even it out. That seems like a weird play to just straight up do nothing.
And also, like, a damage reversal spell in Rakdos, Cardor Doomscourge. I can't think of any. Most damage reversal spells are like Settle the Wreckage or Comeuppance or something. And I think they're mostly mono white.
Deflecting palm.
If not Boros.
Repercussions, is that an instant enchantment? I mean,
Yeah, Repercussions is an enchantment.
Yeah, hard
It
to
is an
say.
enchantment.
I don't think there really could be anything that would, like, reverse all the damage in those colors. But hey, that's a fucking good ass bluff, dude. Like,
Yeah,
you done did it.
it's the best mountain you've ever drawn.
Yeah.
It's also though, like, what else are you gonna do? Like, what are you like waiting for?
Yeah.
You know, like on your
As the
next
angel
turn, are
player?
you gonna draw? Yeah, are you gonna draw something that's gonna help you? Like,
That's a really
probably
good point.
not.
Yeah.
Like, why wait another turn?
Like if they already have the answer in hand, you're just gonna stall until they discard it because they've drawn 8 cards.
Fuck, dude.
Without anything playable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in that point I mean, it depends on the board state, but I think in that point you like attack with part of your board if you were really worried about that, enough to kill your opponent, not enough to kill you, or enough to like put a dent in them just so you're still doing combat damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely just seems odd to do straight up nothing.
And for those who don't know, Mob Rule, this is a favorite of our friend Brett. Brett's like Pat, where he rotates into our play group, not as often as Pat, but every once in a while he comes in. And Brett has this like control play style that is kind of baffling to all of us because none of us play this way. And he will frequently win with like a Mob Rule or like a comeuppance or something like that. And we're just like, we're always caught with our pants down. Like I think every time he's played with us, he's won almost every single time with some weird effect like that. So Mob Rule is a 6-mana sorcery. It costs 4 and 2 red. And it says choose one, gain control of all creatures with power 4 or greater until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. Or gain control of all creatures with power 3 or less until end of turn. Untap those creatures and they gain haste until end of turn. So you're really either grabbing like the biggest creatures on the board or the smallest creatures on board and attacking with them. So if someone has a bunch of 4/4 angels, pretty great board to play this into. It's a solid top deck.
Very good.
So what do we think about the soul rating here?
I mean, it's pretty high. Like we can start with just the fact that there's packs on the line. That elevates the salt levels.
It makes a competition level, but that makes pub stomping okay because you can't pub stomp in competitions.
Don't bring it up. Don't do it. Not again. Not again.
When we were at Magic 30,
Please,
we were
bro.
at Magic 30 in Vegas, Tony and I played in a 2-headed giant event. And quite frankly, we stacked the deck. We stacked the deck in our favor. And I don't mean the physical deck, folks. I mean with our strategy. That's right. We were playing Bant Voltron and Bant Control.
Yeah, we came to rail our opponents, and that we did.
There we were. Rafiq railing and Rubinia railing.
Caught with your pants down.
Pants were down.
I was going to say I tried to behave because when you said that for Brett, I wanted to be like, and then he railed us, but I didn't.
Oh man, this is the episode. This is the episode where everyone
Hashtag episode title.
No, it's so not. It's so not. This is unlistenable. You guys were so grumpy at me for mostly Mike for being like, we have to record.
I'm not grumpy. I'm here for it. I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
it was
fucking
Mike.
go,
It was fully
baby.
Mike. I
There's
was
a
being
duality
kind.
here. I can be both.
And here we are recording something that's unlistenable.
I don't think it's unlistenable. I think it's kind of good.
I also think it's good. I actually think it's funny that I say it's unlistenable. It's like a little joke. It's like a little joke.
Okay.
You know,
Sam, edit that part out.
Yeah,
that I just
will.
said so that I sound cool.
Well, certainly not that. Certainly not that.
Never that.
Never that. If anything, Sam, note for the future edit to make Tony sound more lame. Edit some like fart sounds in there.
Fucking good luck, bitch.
Are you just admitting it's impossible to make you sound lamer?
We are so unhinged right now. Oh
Yeah,
my
let's get
god,
back
what
to
are
it.
we
What were we
even
even
talking
saying?
about?
Is it that time of the week?
Is this our second or third question?
I think it's our third.
That was our third.
Okay. Did we do salt ratings?
Yeah, that's what I asked, and then we like talked about it.
Yeah, I think it's salty. What about you guys?
This is a salty,
It's
it's a salty
It's good
situation.
salt.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
I think the post title was pretty accurate. Salty story. I think that kind of describes it well. What
Yeah.
do you guys think?
You're such a fucking
What do you guys
loser.
think?
Is it that time of the week?
Which time?
Yeah, what time of the week?
Comes every motherfucking week.
Ooh, I think it might be that time of the week, Tony.
Yeah, like all the fucking time, bro. Like,
Well,
I'm
only
feeling
once
it
a
right
week.
now.
I mean, we just said it's only once
Yeah,
a week,
but
so it's
all
not
the
all
time,
the time.
all the time, once a week. You know,
This is
You know
some
how
like
that works?
60% of the time it works all the time bullshit. Yes, I think it is that time of the week, Tony. It's that time of the week where we say, Mike,
Mike.
what's the salty card of the week?
I'm glad you asked. The salty card of the week this week.
S is for the way you suck each game. A, you always are the one to blame. L for laughing at me when I misplayed badly. T, you piece of trash, you motherfucking piece of trash. Oh, salt is all that I can give to you.
To who?
Salt. It's more than just a game, you fool. Salt, it's what I'm bringing when we're cardboard slinging. Salt, I rage and then I scoop.
You spent so much time on this.
Is this the one you like cooked up a couple weeks ago? And you were like, I've got one, guys. I knew it. I had a feeling that was coming.
That's the one, like, when I was driving to my tattoo appointment, I like could not stop singing it.
That's just a great song too. I like that song a lot.
Yeah,
That's
it
nice.
is. Yeah. So that's
Beautiful.
SALT by Sam. Howling Salt Mine Sam.
Nice.
You like that? Follow that up, Mike.
The salty card of the week this week is
Is that what we're doing right now?
Wait, say it again. You
What is
talked
it?
over Mike. Mike, what is it? What's the salty card?
The salty card of the week this week
S
is
is for- Oh, Mike left. Mike left. Oh my god, Michael
man.
left the meeting.
I actually love the fact that he actually left. It's
Wow.
not even a joke, fans. He just like left the whole thing.
Yeah,
But
he
he's
left
like
the whole
coming
thing.
back, right? Like
I think I can do it. I actually heard what it was.
I think he said Notion Thief.
Yeah, so the salty card of the week this week is Notion Thief. Notion Thief is a 4-mana cost human rogue. It costs 2 colorless, a blue and a black, and is a 3/1. It has flash, and it says if an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card.
Yeah.
Tony, let's start with you.
my bad, guys.
So Tony, does this make you salty?
This card
no.
definitely makes me salty.
Oh, Mike, welcome back.
Oh, hey.
Oh.
I did it for the bit, and then there was a Zoom update. All right, so the salty card of the week.
I read it already.
Boo, the whole thing?
I read the whole card.
Oh, let him read it, Sam. Let him
you can read
it.
it. Fine. I'm leaving it all in, but you can read it again.
No, it's okay. If you read it, we're good.
You
I'll
can
just
at least
go fuck
ask us
myself
if we're-
then.
You can at least ask us if we're salty.
No, I know you are. We can move on. Close it up. Wrap it up, Sam.
And that's it for the salty card
That's
of the week.
Yeah, that's the part I'll do. No one interrupts that
We
part.
actually- we
That's
do
it
have
for
to
the
do it.
salty card of the week, folks. Thanks for playing.
Oh, we have to do it. We have to do
Okay,
it.
The
so I'll
saltiest
go.
card there is.
This card definitely makes me salty. Don't love it, especially because it's instant speed, right? So it like comes down when you're not really expecting it. Usually when somebody's like playing a wheel or something, and it's usually pretty out of nowhere.
It's coming down like on the trigger for
yeah,
sure.
and we used to have it happening a lot in our pod, and I think we don't anymore. I think actually more interesting is like the interaction when multiple get played. So like one person slaps one down and they think they're about to get it, and then somebody else slaps one down, and then it gets like fucking confusing and weird. But overall, I definitely feel slow when this happens because you're just getting denied resources, right? That's always the at the core of these types of things, and like cards are like the resource. So getting denied that really hurts, and like not even denied, somebody else is getting it instead. Like they're gaining from your what was supposed to be mine. So that's my thoughts.
Nice. I don't know if we asked Sam already, so I guess we can
did
ask.
it.
Okay. How do you feel about this one, Sam?
This card doesn't make me too salty, but I also think that it has something to do with the fact that we're just not seeing it played as much anymore. It used to be super salty when Hull Breacher was big in the CDH meta. I feel like most of our decks were on playing wheels more often. And we just had more like prevalence with wheeling and playing cards that create or deny value off of playing wheels. And at that time, like Notion Thief would come down like probably every other game. I was playing some like Grixis wheel shit, and eventually was playing like Freeze Thief and stuff like that. And
Yuriko.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. And Yuriko as well.
I think it came out in Yuriko, and it came out in my Circu Demir Lobotomist deck.
And in Nick's Tassiger deck. So I think we were all like pretty high on Notion Thief. Nowadays, like 4 mana is kind of a lot. And wheels are less prevalent with Hull Breacher no longer around. I think like the whole meta has shifted away from that outside of like breach lines. And even then, it's not really needed for breach lines anymore. Whereas like breach wheels used to be really big. And nowadays it's mostly like, okay, you're on brain freeze, like those combos are getting tighter. So I just don't see it too much anymore. But when it does come out, it's super salt inducing, mostly because you wait to drop it for like a big value draw. And, you're just denying someone something big, whether it's a wheel or not. Like it's coming down, it's making a big impact.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this card, Mike?
I think I agree. I think the time that it can be really salt inducing is when there's a big stack of draw on the board. But it's kind of one of those things where for the most part, it's like a one trick thing. It comes down, it grabs the draw, and then people are trying to not play into that draw as much as possible from then on out. It can be really frustrating if there's like a unavoidable draw trigger, like Esper Sentinel isn't a May. So then anytime someone is triggering Esper Sentinel, they're giving the Notion Thief play or something, and like
Crom
the
as
Notion,
well.
Yeah, Crom as well. So there are definitely these situations where it can be really frustrating, but it also does usually lightning rod removal because people want to draw their cards. So you're usually not the only person trying to get rid of it, which can kind of alleviate some of the salt. But it is also one of those situations where it's like you mentioned it, Sam, it's 4 mana, so it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
For me, the salt there is always like I line up to get a big draw and I'm staring at 4 open mana and I still play into it, and then someone Notion Thieves me. And I'm like, this sucks.
It's funny because I feel like these days in CDH, one black mana is way more threatening than like one black mana and one blue mana being up. Because with one black mana, I'm ready for the dark ritual into a opposition agent. You know what I mean? Which I feel like is like the spicy play that happens a lot. Whereas it used to be dark ritual into the Notion Thief, but it just doesn't really happen as much anymore. It is a 3/1, so I do think that it's like extremely fragile. The other thing that makes me salty about it is that I always think opposition agent is a 3/1 because of how similar they are, but op agent is a 3/2, and that's irritating.
True.
Where, oh, where does it sit on the list? My guess is 54.
Interesting.
54.
Sam, where do you think this lies?
I think this probably is a little bit above 50. I think I'm 47.
Interesting. You said, I think it's a little above 50. And then you said 47.
Well, one is the top.
You're fucking trash. Where is it?
I love how serious this section has been ever since Mike logged out and came back in. We're all like, oh, it's podcast time now. Before that, we've just been like three gremlins like shrieking at each other.
Well, Sam's streak is finally ruined. Tony got this one by the narrow margin, of course. This is actually card 100 in the top.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is the last one that makes the cut onto the salty cards list.
Not what I would have guessed.
I thought it would be way higher because I feel like this can hose people so hard in a casual game. Weird.
I guess only degenerates run it in casual games. Remember that in your Anawan build.
Yeah, hides my Anawan deck under the desk. What do you mean?
Interesting.
That's interesting. 100, huh?
I think this card may be one that does not see a lot of play in casual, because this is about 11% of decks on EDH Rec, and I think we've sort of found a little bit of like something around the CDH, the number of the CDH decks in EDH Rec may be somewhere around there, because like things that we consider like kind of stapley CDH cards, we end up seeing in something around like 11 to 15% of decks. So I think this might not be getting that much casual play.
Yeah, I think there's also something that has to do, and granted, I'm not well versed in like how EDH Rec's algorithms compile things. I'm pretty sure that they look at the date that decks were last changed or published and eventually weed out old decks. But there is this thing that exists in CDH, specifically with deck building, where a lot of people will copy a popular deck and then make like 2 card swaps. And now that is like, an independent, unique deck per the system. So you may have like 6,000 versions of Freeze Thief back in the day that, all ran Notion Thief, but 6,000 different players had copied it over and made a couple card swaps. And now it's like their, quote unquote, unique brew versus people building a deck whole cloth and choosing to add in Notion Thief. So I think like the numbers when it comes to CDH cards do skew in like a really weird way. Like sometimes you can check out a commander, like this happens to us a lot. We'll check out a commander on EDH Rec and one of us will be like, is there a CDH build with this? Because you start going through it and it's like Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Mox Amber, Lotus Petal. And you're like, okay, someone is brewing a CDH deck with this. There's a bunch of brewers on that right now, all like tinkering on similar lists. And it's like skewing the numbers like crazy,
Yeah. I also think that there's something to be said of this being like feeling very Dimir. Like it's blue-black. If someone has blue-black and 2 open, like this feels like an effect that Dimir might be able to do, like snag your draws, So it doesn't have kind of that unexpected. It does that it has flash, but it doesn't have that like, oh, I don't think your deck would be able to do that effect that things sometimes do. Like mass land destruction in white. It's like, oh, that's something that your color is going to do. Like I don't see that. Whereas this is much more kind of on color pie.
And 4 open mana is just over the line where I don't think it's like a reasonable amount to keep up at the end of your turn without suspecting heavily that you've instant speed bullshit going on. Like if someone ends their turn with 1 or 2 open mana, it's like, okay, maybe they got something going on. Who knows? If they end with 3, I'm a little bit more suspicious. If they end with like 4, 5, or 6, I'm like, okay, like some big shit is going to come down. And
Yeah, you better have a
obviously-
mana sink on board for that, or you're
Yeah.
clearly doing something.
or like heavily telegraphing like a psych rift or something that's coming, which happened to us pretty recently playing against Nick. So I think that stuff kind of becomes a little bit obvious, and maybe that's why Notion Thief, I don't know, it's just a weird cost. 4 is a lot these days, whereas it used to be kind of fair.
Well, that wraps up the salty card of the week.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a great salty card of the week. Wish you could have been here for when we read it. It was really cool.
Me too.
And thank you to our listener. If you made it this far into this chaotic episode, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you want more Howling Salt Mine content, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have a monthly show, Extra Salt, that comes out. That's where we are answering listener questions, doing deck techs, just kind of talking about whatever, talking about how we got into Magic, things like that. Then we have our Stray Grain series, which is a short form series. These are small, shorter episodes. Generally, they're like 3 to 5, maybe 10 minutes with some of these ones that are longer. And they're just little bits and little side alleyways that we walk down an episode that didn't quite make the final cut. Some of these conversations are probably some of the funniest things we've done, quite frankly. And it's got this kind of NPR vibe that we really dig. If you have a question that you would love to be featured on a future episode, or a salty story, or a salty confessional, email it to us at our Gmail, thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com, or DM it to us on any of our social media. We are Howling Salt Mine on Twitter and The Howling Salt Mine on Reddit and Instagram. Lastly, if you haven't already, a 5-star review really does go a long way. It increases our visibility, and it really just helps people naturally find the podcast in the various podcast algorithms out there. So that can be super, super helpful for us. We also have merchandise now. Check out our Bonfire store. We have the classic Howling Salt Mine logo, our podcast logo. You can get on a shirt, a crew neck sweater, a hoodie, a crop top. We have the Borderless logo, super sexy and cool. And we also have our Blue is a Trash color shirt to really proclaim your hatred of blue or your love of being a trash person.
Because fuck blue.
Lastly, we have to shout out JD Burnett, our podcast artist, for gifting us this beautiful podcast art that we have. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit up JD and get a tattoo. He's a really cool dude. Thanks again, everybody. And as always, stay salty and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Mike, I'm sorry I read the Notion Thief card.
No, it's
you could have
okay.
done it. I'm sorry.
It's
He's
all right.
not fucking sorry.
I feel so bad now. you like came back and you're just like, oh, like, okay, I guess we can just talk about it now. I'm like, oh,
I thought there would
sorry.
be like a funny blooper of you guys being like, oh, he's really gone. Like, haha, what a dummy. And then I come back and you're like, we carried on as if nothing had happened. And I was like, oh,
Well, you were gone for like 2 minutes.
it was a Zoom update.
like you left and we were just like, all right, I guess we just keep reading it.
It's okay.
I didn't know if
just
you were going to come
I won't
back.
leave-
I
I
expected
won't
you to-
leave for the bit in the future for
I
sure.
expected you to pop back immediately.
Me too. Me too. To be clear, I did too.
Good hustle. Good hustle, guys.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, my fucking so the one thing that did happen this whole time is like they fart a shit ton, Thelma and Louise.
Oh my
Like,
god.
this room like smells. Like I left and I was like, oh my god, fresh air. Fuck.
No.
Thelma and Louise, raunchy as fuck. Don't give a shit.
Honestly, man, that's one of the things that does keep me off of dog ownership. I feel like in general, it's more arduous. There are pluses and minuses. You know, you get to bring your dog with you places. I can't really bring my cat with me anywhere. But also at the same time, I don't have to bring my cat with me anywhere. But man, like cats don't fart, or I've never met a cat that does. But dogs definitely
Dogs definitely do.
dogs be beefing. And I
Yeah.
don't mean like starting arguments.
They're usually silent but deadly, but there's been many a time when Louise, it's like it's very audible. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, I'm like, Louise. It's usually also like I'm like hugging her, giving her love, and then boom, farts. It's like, Louise.
Oh man, farts are fucking funny.
Yeah.
I got no one to blame for my stinky office but myself. I just had to like turn the heat down because I forgot that I like cranked it up. And during that last episode we recorded,
Sweating.
I was just like sweating towards the end. Thank
Got
God I didn't
ass.
look like it, but I was like, oh my God, I'm like dying right now. Like,
Thank God. Comedian would have been really upset if you looked like you were sweating.
be like, oh, Sam, can you turn your camera off? Actually, you're kind of gross.
My God.
Your face is fucking disgusting. And if you want more Howling Saltmine content, check out our Patreon, howlingsaltmine.com/ wow. That's not it. Patreon.com/ howling saltmine. We have, I'm so fucking brain dead. Give me a minute.
Just copy and paste the ending from
No, I can't.
Ian's one into this one,
This is
and
gonna be
then
so clean
delete
to
the part
edit.
where he's
This
like,
is going to be a crazy one to
This is
edit,
gonna be
but,
so clean to edit.
but it's going to be fucking really funny though.
it feels like a good one.
It does feel like a good one.
Okay,
And lastly, we got to shout out JD Burnett. Thank you, JD, our podcast artist. Fuck. Lastly, this episode will have like 20 minutes of bloopers. 30-minute episode, 20 minutes of bloopers.